Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about legibility. And if you are ready, let's get started. What does legibility mean? Legibility simply means clear enough to read, which is crucial in web design. Now, we need to understand when we read text, we don't read letters, just like this. We don't read letters. We read shapes. Legibility is crucial in good design, but also there are instances where legibility does not need to be stressed upon so much. Examples of that is in a headline or something with a very short amount of text. But in places where there's a lot of text, such as an instructional article or a large body of text, so because we use lowercase letters, it attracts our eye in feeling familiar with the shape of the word. You notice I say shape of the word, not the letters in the word, rather than all caps, which in most cases are unfamiliar, which make using the lowercase more legible, which is what we are aiming for. So, what are the healthy strokes and open counters, you may ask? So, to be more legible with our text, we look at the shapes on the inside of the letters, such as the E, the G, and the B. These spaces are called counter spaces or open counters of our text. We also look at the strokes of the letters. This creates legibility. You see the strokes, the simple strokes in the L, the I, the B, and the L, T, and the Y. Now, if we move on, we'll talk about more of the healthy strokes and open counters. Now, like I said, the healthy strokes are like the I, the T. The open counters is like the little openings in the letters. So let's review back, just in case you didn't understand that. So here's the strokes, and the open counters are the openings inside the letter. Now, I wanted to show you this example because this is like a photocopy almost text, and it's not very legible. You can see the open counters are starting to be not so open, but rather so closed, and that distracts the eye. That kind of confuses the eye, and it makes the reader really need to work to see what does this really say, which takes a lot of time, which is really difficult for the reader. And we do not want to design something that it takes so much effort to view. Along with this over here, you notice in this kind of text, or along with their font, it's kind of broken up. Some of the strokes are kind of cut off. The open counters are kind of open, not so open, but closed. Like the A, it kind of folds over, and it could look like almost like the number 8, which is really confusing to the eye. So the first example, we do not want that. The second example, we definitely do not want that. Now, let's talk about X height. In order to help with healthy spaces and healthy strokes, you need to have a generous X height. An X height is the height of an X in a typeface. So if we look at this X, this is a Verdana font, and this X in a Book Antiqua font, you notice there is different height. The Verdana has a more expandable height than the Book Antiqua font, which is less in height. So you can notice that the Verdana font is more legible than the Book Antiqua font because of the X height, which is what we're aiming for. Now, you can also look at the, let's see here. You can also look at the open counters of the letters, which is more open. You notice the Verdana font has more space, has more openness than the Book Antiqua font. As the E, you can notice how small the um, open counter is in the E than the E over here, along with the G in both of these. So it's really interesting. So when we determine the X height, we need to look at also the healthy strokes and open counters as well as the X height. So if we move on, let's talk about apertures. Okay, so apertures are like these openings right in the C, and you can see in the E right in here. And sometimes a letter A can have it as well. So that's what we want to look for. The apertures are very important. The ones that have the most space that is open, the most aperture, is the most legible. So you can see this C is more open and X height than this C, which kind of curls over, which could kind of like bleeding into making a O, which that is not what we want. We want legible. So also with the aperture, the Verdana font is still our #1 pick. Now, ascenders and descenders. Ascenders are above the C. You can say our C is our guide point, like our X height, and anything above the C is our ascenders. So right up here, this will be our ascender. Right up here, this will be our descender. Along the I, crossover, and this top of the L. Now, the descender is anything that is below the X height. And if we look at that, it is the G right here. And same on this side. That's a G. So we want to have long ascenders and long descenders. So also, you notice that the descender in the Book Antiqua font is quite longer than the descender in the Verdana font. But, like I said before, we need to go down our checklist. Which has the most healthy strokes and open counters? Verdana. Which has the most X height? Verdana. Apertures? Verdana. And ascenders and descenders, in this case, the ascenders, you notice, is more in the Verdana than the Book Antiqua. Also, the descender is quite longer in the Book Antiqua, but because of all the elements that the Verdana font does provide, we're still looking at the Verdana font as our first option. Now, let's go to serif versus sans serif. Now, what if you could pick which one is serif, which one is sans serif? This one, the Verdana font, is actually a sans serif, and the Book Antiqua is a serif font. Now, why is it two different names? The serif font, if you look right on top of the L, it's kind of like this dash sitting right on top of the stroke. As long as this dash kind of bleeds onto, or kind of rises to the top. Also with the I, it's kind of like, it looks like a #1 with a dot, but it's an I, a lowercase I, and this is called a serif. This little stroke that just goes straight across, just like on top of the B, the L, and this is kind of just a little modern style of the G. Now if you look at the sans serif font, we don't have those type of stroke dashes, which makes this a serif font. Now, we are told, I've personally, me as learning all this about design and typography, I've heard that a serif font is more legible for reading than a sans serif font because the dashes that the serif font has, it kind of makes your eye flow letter to letter or shape to shape, which puts a kind of flow into the word, the paragraph, the paper, the article, um, which helps the reader just flow along the page more smoothly than a sans serif font where it's like legible rather than legible. But there can be some debate. Why? Because of things we've talked about before. Healthy strokes and open counters. We determined Verdana. X height. We've determined Verdana. Apertures. Verdana. Ascenders and descenders. Verdana. And in this case, because this type of serif font, sans serif font, let me correct myself, because of this sans serif font has all those elements, previous elements we talked about, we would have to determine that this is more legible than this because of the qualities that are in this font does not have, which makes this font not legible. So I hope you understood all that information. And I believe that is all we need to talk about today. So remember, if you have any questions or feedback, please leave your comment below. Thank you.